Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode of the LightBringers, and it is going to be episode 21. It's just post guild chat as well, and we already kind of talked for a bit. So if you want to go and check out the stuff from before, it's on video. It's on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/JabbingUnity, and it's got the awesome Bird of Chest crew from Boots as well, who have all been here the whole time. How was so? Any opening statements, general feelings about the what happened in the good old guild chat we just had, which was about the Virtuoso, the Willbender, and the Harbinger, not Harbinger, showing off the weapons, utilities, and traits. I actually didn't expect to get the traits completely as well, to be fair. So, yeah.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Jeb, while we were watching it, said, I wonder if all three of these are going to have at least to some degree a similar play style and be kind of assassin-y, high mobility, unique things about them that are sort of quirky in the sense that usually in those types of classes you have a high skill ceiling and, you need to kind of have an idea of what's happening to be able to position and strike efficiently. So I definitely think that's the case. All three of them seem to share similar, not exact, but like similar conceptions and like idea mentality and like how they're going to be structuring those or how the playstyle might be. But it's interesting to see that with each of those, I do think that there are like specific areas that they sort of focus in on, right? And that you'll be able to really excel at that will make them feel different. And oh my gosh, I mean, come on, Willbender just looks absurd, but like in the best possible way.
Oh, I'm amazed at Willbender. I'm kind of like, it's very overwhelming because there's a lot of information to take in, and of course we haven't tried it yet, but I think Willbender for me, I'm most pleased with because there seems to be a lot of give and takes. I love seeing traits that specialize into something. And with the traits we saw, like you have reduced healing to others, but you do more healing yourself. I would love to see more of those throughout, but the Harbinger was cool, and so was the Virtuoso, but gameplay philosophy and stuff, I'm really excited for the Willbender.
That's a bit of bias, isn't it?
I'm not. Actually, I was going into this, I was most excited to see the Harbinger, and then I saw it and I was like, okay.
Okay. Fine.
I would say
Interesting.
I'm gonna shit all over that opinion in a minute.
Do it.
I would say
massive swearing on
that
it.
for me, what this stream did was really show me 3 elite specs that change what the profession has been doing up until this point dramatically. So all 3 of them are game changers for their specific class. Not necessarily for the game itself, but for their specific class, they're game changers. Like the Harbinger, the mechanics of it, and also just the sheer mobility you have in it, very interesting. The Virtuoso, no more illusions, it's all daggers, very interesting. The Willbender, holy shit. The amount of mobility you get on that thing is ridiculous. I would say out of the 3 of them, Virtuoso is the only one that didn't have things that seemed like pretty complete, well designed. Everything was well designed, obviously, but Virtuoso was the one that didn't have elements that seemed a little bit insane,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. It's funny because I really do like the idea of Virtuoso, even, if it seems like, okay, well, it's going to be sonic daggers. Maybe we thought there was going to be more of like a music twist originally. I like that idea. I'm sure I can make a character that will have a cool kind of feel with that. But it does feel like out of these 3, I was least like, oh, about Virtuoso. It felt like there was just something a little missing from it to me, where I was sort of expecting that there would be that thing that made me go like, oh gosh, that'd be really cool. Or that's a really cool possibility. I mean, it seems like it'll work just fine, but I got much more excited about Harbinger and Willbender than I did Virtuoso.
Is it because we saw it early, or is it just because of that? Then do you think? I think you're right. I think I'd kind of agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. I think us seeing it early didn't help, of course, because we got used to all of the skills.
Yeah,
and
I've been through it many times.
The interaction of the skills. I mean, if we saw that elite now, I think that'd be really cool because it seems to be a really long range, just channeled a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But There was some weird things with the Virtuoso in terms of traits. Like the one trait that increases damage when you're closer in. I don't.
But
I would
that's just a flat damage boost. It's like that's not that interesting.
But it's not interesting. But in terms of the design, it's a long ranged spec. So why not have it to where when you're above the threshold, you do more damage? I feel like Guild Wars 2 is often like a very like compacted game, and I would kind of like to see more highlight on long ranged abilities and kind of like gain more success if you're at ranged and
Ranger.
you're really good with your and really good with positioning. Ranger's really good with range. So I kind of hope that that's changed to kind of be the flip of that, because I don't think it's gonna just promote people like to play sword.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I did really like about Virtuoso was the fact that, because like you said, again, it feels like kind of contrarian little places, or like I felt like I couldn't get a complete picture of like, yes, this is the playstyle that I want to be doing with it. And like with the other two, I definitely had a moment where I was like, and then this, and then that, and then I'll go in, and then I'll do that. And like, I could see it all, right? So with this one, I didn't quite get there. And I think you're right in that some of the things just felt maybe like I wasn't totally sure how they would all synergize or work together in the moment. But the one thing that did kind of pique my interest was the fact that those daggers stay with you for like the whole time, because I've always loved classes where your fight doesn't just start and end whenever the battle does. You're thinking ahead, you're having to like get your stacks or your thing up or get this thing ready, and then you can go in and you can use it right off the bat. Like I really like those classes that keep the flow from battle to battle to battle just going, which I think all three of these will. But that was like the one trait from Virtuoso that I was going, or like the one thing in Virtuoso that I was going, oh, okay, I kind of like that.
I'd say I agree with you there. I think that there was two things about Virtuoso that piqued my interest, that little revelations. It was that particular aspect that you retain the daggers, so the blades, so that you could prep before a fight. You could cast that utility skill that preps all those daggers and then go in and do a big assassination type thing. I also liked just the insane amount of illusion generate, like the blade generation that the Grandmasters do for you, it seems, in different ways. And I feel like interaction with the current core traits could be very interesting for that as well. Like there's a few anyway, traits that say when you generate a clone, do this, etc. So it'll be interesting to see. For example, if you pump up your healing power, are you going to be healing 1,000 every 0.5 seconds because of it? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the fact that the dagger, I think the dagger being a long range weapon is the main thing for me for a Virtuoso, just being like
I think
cool
they should have had
thing.
a trait line that focused on the ranged aspect, because there really wasn't. If anything, the traits forced you into more melee combat, and I think it would have been better or more interesting and in line with
the Aegis.
Dagger.
The Aegis and the more range damage.
The minor trait that's like if you do more damage if you're closer to the target, but
I know why though.
Like, why go to the effort of creating a long-ranged dagger to then have no like importance of you being at ranged and utilizing it?
So I'll ask you a question. Where do you think that would be useful as an example? Where do you
like
think
a sniper. I think that would be amazing.
Traits.
Imagine if you've got like blink or something where you can just blink in and be an assassin. Like assassins are also, because this is what a lot of these specs are. A lot of them are about the fact that you can get quite close up close and personal, because Harbinger has physical abilities, some kind of physical abilities in terms of being close and with the shroud, and then so does the Guardian, and then the Guardian's Willbender, and then also the Mesmer. If you get in quite close, you get a bit more defense if you block, and you also get a bit more damage, but it's only really for a short amount of time. If you think about it in terms of Aegis, it can be maybe a little bit longer, but it entices you to dive more.
Yeah, so that's an important point. I think that there's a couple of things about this that is interesting. Is that it's a little counterintuitive with the fact that you're supposed to have a lot of range with the dagger. However, number one, one of the traits that it goes for, like that it's pairing off with in the minor trait, is the one that gives you Aegis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can
and
find it.
the one that gives you Aegis is a very it's like the only really good defensive utility that they seem to have this class. And since it was talked about, the Virtuoso, it really seemed like this was a very glass cannon-y thing, but that trait in particular can round out your defenses a little bit.
Yeah. And
if you're not taking that trait, and the choice is to go for something very, very different, which is a very risky play of 15% extra damage if you're within 600 range. That's very risky, especially if you don't have the one trait that might be defensive for you. So I think they're trying to do like that kind of choice, right? Like either you want to be a little more safe or you want to go all in.
I think from the thematic standpoint as well, of them being like masters of swordplay, which I mean, they kind of talk about the lore and things like that, but this idea that they're like so focused almost on the art of the blade that they use them telekinetically. I can see on one hand, right, how especially the idea of like a lunge or something that you might do in like fencing or, you know, that kind of swordplay style where you take, again, a risky dive in to strike very hard. Like that, I think it works thematically. But I do find myself kind of wishing, Kroof, like you, that especially with the potential of like being able to hold those daggers and like that sort of psionic and telekinetic sort of component to it where you're sending them out far beyond your own natural reach. I would have loved to see something where you could almost do more of like a sniping play style, you know?
Yeah,
where you could like get those things. Yeah. It's just, it would have been cool to see a trait, I think, that also like encouraged that, maybe in the reverse, so that you could either play like a duck in style or a stay very far out and sneak up and then from like great distance try and land a hit. It'd be interesting, I think.
Because if anything else, it seems like if you want to play ranged, you're gonna maybe take the bottom line, because all of those tend to focus on the blade generation skills, which tend to be the dagger.
What was the bottom line for the minor and the major?
It's the bleeding, it's the expertise, and then like your...
Oh yeah, it's a Condi spec kind of the bottom line.
Condi, so, but the dagger itself seems to be a bit more...
I don't think it has to be Condi specifically. I think it's gonna like... I mean, I guess so, because it's the first one's Jagged Mind, so blade attacks have a chance to inflict bleeding. I guess so.
So I kind of agree with you. I see what you're saying. I kind of agree with you, but I would say it would make more sense what you're saying if the dagger itself, being at 1200 range, had the same kind of longbow effect where it does more damage the further away you are. So if they had that built into the dagger, and then on top of that, the trait that says you want to be closer, that would be weird. That'd be very weird.
How do you feel when you play versus specs that can just burst you from afar and you can't even get close to them?
It depends. Like there usually needs to be some kind of trade-off for me, or some way that, you know, you can scope them, spot them, combat them to some degree. But I do think it's a fun play style. I mean, like, so many other games have things like that, or sniper rifles or stuff like that, that like people do enjoy playing that more, I guess, stationary distance plotting scheming kind of thing. But I think there is a time where like if you can't combat it, or there's nothing you can do for it, or there's not like limitations, that's when it gets really frustrating.
My definite concern in that is skill. Because in Guild Wars 2 you don't need to be a skillful ranger to hit 2 and do a really long ranged ability. And the same with like
but with the Virtuoso,
well.
the dagger and the dagger skills and also the shatters, they're not the same in terms of its oppressive, fast-paced playstyle like the longbow ranger. All of the shatters have a cast time. All of the projectiles on the Virtuoso blades, the third in particular, is quite slow. It has to actually reach the area to start triggering its attacks. The second one's cool, and so is the auto attack. I actually really like the auto attack. But I think there's definitely ways to have a more long-range playstyle. I would have liked to have seen that be elaborated upon a little bit more. And for the traits, I didn't necessarily see that. But I think some of the traits are really interesting.
You know, one of the things that we didn't talk about, but in the moment that we haven't talked about yet, but in the moment we really enjoyed, was that ricochet. Like, I think that also is really cool and has a lot of potential. And like, oh my gosh, like if somehow that playstyle had been almost based around various ricochet effects, that would have been so interesting. I probably would have been even more into it, but I at least like that one. And I think it's cool that they mentioned you can even angle it off the floor. It's like an aimed ability, angle it off of walls. I thought all of that was really clever and unique, and something that I hadn't seen yet in the game. And while we were kind of thinking about the other classes, that just sort of like vanished from my mind for a moment. But that is a neat thing about it. I like that.
Kind of reminds me of Phoenix a little bit, but if it bounces off of walls, that's different. That's cool.
This is also good for players who play World v World as well, because their clones don't get destroyed. So like this is definitely more of a World v World spec where you can actually, there's gonna be people who can actually run around and they don't get their clones, because it's just the daggers up top. You can't actually destroy them, can you? I don't think so. But yeah, no, it's not really it's not like I disagree with like potentially having a projectile at range. I think it's just trying to kind of think about what that would mean for that class as well, and if it would necessarily, because I feel like there is a tiny bit, I agree with you, Krufin, there is a little tiny bit of confusion over maybe what they're trying
honestly,
to do.
I think Kruf is kind of right, though, that I think this spec is supposed to be, you're staying far enough away, because it doesn't have that much defense, right? So you're trying to stay far enough away and do a lot of damage from far. But you're right, there are some shatters and some traits that are sort of like small AoE around the character as well, so it's a little bit of both. I don't know, it's weird.
There's the block, yeah,
the F4 is the block, and you don't really have access to distortion unless you take that utility skill. So you really have to be playing, if you want to go full dagger range stuff, you don't have a lot of defense, because you're going to have to get the immob off if you take that psionic utility and then use a rain of swords to get an actual like good amount of damage. And plus, you would take blinks or portals. But I don't know. I think that this seems to be pretty slow. So I don't know. I feel like the Virtuoso as a whole has been a very confused elite spec, from the namings to the themes to the traits almost.
I think they become more confused as well. But the thing is, you don't see the other trait lines, and you don't see other weapons and abilities and utilities and stuff with them. And I think part of what Guild Wars 2 is about, and how you really can show off some of these, is when you combine it in a build, which is what I would like to see them do more when they show these off. Like, have some recorded builds which they throw up on YouTube, and they're like, okay, this is this spec, imagine what you can do with this, that, the other. And you know, I think the reason they don't do that is because people probably crap on it, because they'll be like, oh well, why didn't you do this, that, and the other? But then it initializes some kind of thought, you know, into what can happen, because they actually used to do that to a degree. They were like, oh, imagine, they have some ideas and they spout them out, right? They're like, imagine if you pair this with blah 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 xxx whatever, and then like it gives ideas. So I guess, you know, but with Virtuoso, I guess I'm thinking, what would that be good with? Like, how does it work with clones specifically? Like, how is that daggers? Like, what's the wording
Someone
on
in
that?
chat, it could have been Valen or someone else, but the Shatterstorm trait, like putting charges, especially on the F1. The F1, I feel like this is going to be a really like good long range damage spec. So there will be some decent uptime. And I guess there are traits where you get boons as well for using your shatters. But these shatters are also cast time, so you'll have to be a bit more careful with your shatters.
Imagine having like, Moa, for example, in PvP or World v World, and you're roaming around, and then you can get up close and you just literally smash them in the light. I'm just imagining that, and I'm like, that actually would be pretty cool. Like being from range, and like, I can't remember what the range is on Moa actually.
900 maybe?
900 or 1200. Definitely one of those two.
So you can like range Moa and like take the I would just be like, what? It'd just be kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I think this one will really, I think the beta will really kind of maybe round out opinions on it, because it is one of those ones where I feel like the other two, just from what we got with the showcase and the information, I felt like I had a better idea of, like you said, a full concept for how to play it, or what you might be doing, or, you know, how you might pair it with the other things or weapons or ideas in the game. And like, I just didn't quite get that same read. So I am really curious, because I don't dislike it. You know, I think that the aesthetic and the looks and the ways that they've kind of changed what Mesmers do, I love seeing all of that. I really think that the like spectral weapons are really neat. So I'm curious to see, like how people kind of start bringing it together into a more of an actual realized play style that might click a little bit.
Well, for something we didn't like specifically click with so much, we've talked about it for a while, so it might be good to talk about something else. But
I
unless
just want to say one last thing. I think so. Yeah, we'll talk about the other two specs, which are much easier to see where things are a little stronger or not.
Yeah.
But I think Virtuoso seems to have where it might shine is a couple of traits that can't seem that they have the ability to be slightly abused. So I think we could probably make some really good builds based on a couple of the traits there, not necessarily the skills.
Healing.
The Aegis is very strong, and the quickness on Aegis and boons on Aegis as well. So yeah, we'll see how that works out. But it's the traits it seems that Virtuoso might have the strength in.
Despite me being cautious about power creep, I actually am really excited for Tuesday because this seems to going to be like a really great time.
It doesn't matter if it's too powerful. You know, one thing that no matter what podcast or what MMORPG I'm playing, mostly the agreement between most people who play and create content is that those things are supposed to be ridiculously strong when they come out. It's part of the marketing. It's just supposed to be powerful, and then they shave it down. It's just a part of it. Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is.
People really mad
it's not an intentional like we're gonna make this ridiculous.
Competitive stuff, but in PvE, sure, go all the way.
I've talked to so many people about this. It's definitely a feeling. It's definitely.
Jeb, you're definitely. At least from my experience as well with a bunch of other MMOs, it's definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing because when you think about it, people get excited. They want to try the new classes, but part of the experience of feeling positive about a class that you're playing is the fact that you want to feel like you're having a big impact. So I really do believe that MMOs do tune high when they introduce new classes, partially, and I don't think they're unaware of it, to be honest. I don't necessarily think it's a malicious thing either, so that the community should be upset. I think it's just marketing, right? It's one of those things where it's like people want to play the new thing, they want to be excited about it. And then, as with many other things, they tune and bring everything back in balance or, buff various things. It's only when it goes like really, really, really OP or like really egregious that I think then it's like, okay, guys, like could we have maybe, it's okay if it's good.
Yeah, the Necro and the ESO is like the best example of this as well.
As a last statement, I haven't felt that these elite specs are super overpowered. So like what I was saying about like my continuous like eye for balance. I'm not super worried with these elite specs.
Not all of them? Every single one of them is not overpowered?
The movement on the Willbender is a little. Got me a little cautious, but
I like the alacrity trait a little bit there.
We can talk about that when we get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Trait that may have to be removed from the game entirely.
You're skipping. Too far away.
Okay,
we'll talk about that in a minute.
Harbinger,
because I want to talk about that as well. Virtuoso is cool. I'm excited to play it, but it's probably my least exciting personally as well. And my general thoughts on everything, I think that was well put together. I like the presentation. I like the fact that it wasn't an all-day event where you go through every single thing, because I think you felt guilty and upset and sad when you had to dip out of that, and it was just too long before. It's very good. This is the way they should have done it during Heart of Thorns, I feel like, as well. Even though that was still fun and awesome because it was cool to hang out with people, but this was a really good way of doing it. I loved how they brought on someone talking about the lore and combining that with the elite specialization. I thought that was a very good job. I was awesome to see her on stream as well, because I think that's their first time, and they did a fantastic job as well.
Can we talk about how amazing her name is too?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The name Indigo is incredible. Love it.
Yeah. If you want to. Sorry, I didn't even say Indigo's name.
Oh yeah.
It's also important to note that so in Canada, Chapters, the bookstore, or maybe it's called something else. Okay, well, anyway, there's a bookstore that's like there's a bookstore that is the equivalent to Chapters. Like it's called Indigo. Indigo is like a huge, gigantic chain of bookstores, and her name is Indigo Book, and it's just so amazing. And I love that she's also in narrative because it's just like perfect. She's I love it.
Made for the role.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so generally, first of all, we're going to talk about Harbinger first. It's not Harbinger. Like, as me and Boots had a little bit of a discussion before the stream. Just like everything I've said Harbinger so many times now. But yeah, I like the artwork as well, and also the symbol for if you're listening, we're watching a little bit of the VOD as well and kind of commenting on it.
It's so interesting to me because thinking from a lore standpoint, right? Yeah. And now that we have the revealed artwork, when we were talking on the podcast last time, was it last time? What is time anymore? And we were talking about the possible Korean inspiration and or mythology inspiration. It looks exactly like it. Like the actual full reveal art is identical. I have like no doubt that they drew inspiration from this source with like mythology and shamanism. And
That's
yet
true.
I was so surprised that it does seem like the actual like in-game realization is based more around this gunslinger. And you know, we talked about the possible potions and or the influence of something like the corruption or jade, and all of that is in there, which I love. I think that's super neat.
I said
but I was so
elixirs was definitely a
surprised.
thing. We were right about the
Yes,
elixirs.
elixirs.
100%.
I was super surprised that as far as the lore that we got, there wasn't anything about this specific kind of like reference. But I mean, I still love it. I think it looks awesome. I actually am really excited, and usually I'm not. I mean, Necro is good, but I'm not usually that excited about Necro. And this is one where I'm like, yeah, I might play Necro now. I might
it's
actually
very,
love that.
very, very different. And I think the reason I didn't draw off of that, what you're talking about, is because it was kind of close to Reaper, maybe. Might have been a bit too close to Reaper. But also, like, I think there's nothing wrong with them combining things and having the look and then doing, you know, there could be a little bit of lore. But, like, this class, like, even with right now on the screen, you can see his like the legs. Is that Blight that was on the green kind of... it's on the LightBringers stream. Sorry, this green kind of like glow on the legs. Is that Blight?
I assume that's the Blight. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what the, you know, that whole sort of green effect and stuff seems to be sort of sourcing around. And
so the more Blight. Okay, so the more Blight you have, the more. But then this is Shroud. So Shroud is like this whole green. You're enveloped, and then the silhouette is in there, and then the Blight is more of like green, kind of covering you more slowly, but you can see the character more as well. What is that?
It definitely seems like in the lore here they're using Dragon Jade as sort of like a nuclear kind of power. They're turning into nuclear technology and accessing its power. And
I like that.
I'm starting to like think of it. Yeah, Dragon Jade is essentially uranium, and this person is taking uranium and like shooting uranium at people and ingesting uranium.
Kind of like like this toxic kind of thing, but like it wears off after a while. Like it's more
they
of
don't
like
have long-term effects.
I mean, we
Not the
hope
same.
the studies aren't out yet. We'll have to
studies aren't
check
out
in the next expansion and see how all the Harbingers are doing.
Yeah, poor guys.
Yeah, it's this very toxic kind of alchemist / but like it almost feels like, you know, because of that Blight, and also you're almost essentially like a pharmacist by the looks of things anyway. You're kind of curing yourself, and there could be some lore stuff in there.
Good pharmacist.
I mean, but the thing is, you stay alive, and that's the important thing. One thing is, it is random. Like the art for the elixirs is completely different to the art for elixirs on NG. Just looks really, really different. Just a random comment.
The elixirs are all similar to the art situation. They're all very similar.
Oh, what was also kind of jarring for me was the icon art for the gun skills. It was too clean compared to like the torch, the warhorn skills that are right next to it. You see, it was like slightly different
it's
green.
very different, isn't it? Like it is very. The art on the icons is very different, and I noticed that for Guardian as well. They seem a little bit more. I don't know.
Not enough pestilence.
Yeah, like they could be more green. I don't know.
I think it looks clean. I think they're, you know,
I
catchy.
don't mind it.
Yeah.
They're very clean, but I think it could have had a little bit more variety because it's sometimes hard to see.
The elixirs look like when you've got a musical instrument and it's just different
Oh
colors.
yeah, kind of.
That's, do you know what I mean? That's what I was thinking when it first popped up. I was like, they kind of look this, when you say they look the same, Groove, that's what I kind of get from that a bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like, you know, but like there needs to be definite like differences to make sure, like imagine so when I think about that, I think about accessibility, and I think about colorblind folks, and I think about other people who are determining the differences in skills and stuff. Like if it's the same look and literally the color is the different thing, that's not good design for people with color blindness, and depending on the shades and stuff, and depending on, you know, the severity of the condition, it's just a weird. My brain is in the mental health counselor place all the time now.
No, I mean, it's a good point because it's something that, I mean, people have been talking about a ton in games, right? Like,
Yeah.
and especially in MMOs where you have to realize that like your audience, I mean, all games, but particularly in MMOs, where like your audience encompasses so many people of different ages, different play styles, different, you know, making it more accessible for them and whatever their life situation might be is important.
I mean, that's actually something I might mention to them. That is a definite thing because I think that is actually something important. But yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So for the Harbinger itself, though, have we talked about basically the mechanics of this thing?
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it now.
Yeah, no, let's do it.
All right, wait. Let's think about first of all, think about like, okay, so pistol. I'm just on pistol, so it's just gonna be easier for us to talk about that.
Sure.
Let's talk about that. So the pistol what do you think about pistol first of all for a necro? Because we haven't been able to talk about that.
It didn't need to be a Condi weapon.
It did, yeah, that's correct. It didn't need to be a Condi weapon.
Need torment.
But I mean, it's got the similar range to Axe, and Axe is a pure power weapon, so I guess I wanted to differentiate from that a little bit.
Axe, but I feel like Axe is a bit faster, especially with the 2. And this could have been a bit like slower, harder hitting, somewhat a little bit of a burst. And we already have Scepter. I know Scepter does bleed and poison, but they also have good torment as well.
Yeah, you're right. They didn't need to have torment on every single skill.
I don't think they needed to have
I think I know why.
Yeah, it's funny because
reason though.
I think Chest is about to say why.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. You got it. Now I'm like, if I get it wrong.
I'm just wondering. That's all.
No, I mean,
I'm hoping.
I don't know if we were going to say the same thing. You go first, and then I'll go after, and we'll see.
No.
We'll reconvene.
No, I think the thing about having different kinds of weapon, different kind of play style, you need to have the inference of what the thing is as well. So in the base of it, like even if it's the idea isn't that it does this thing, a Necromancer is about in its whole just theme. It's just about death and conditions and stuff like that. So having some kind of a condition tied to that is kind of important. I agree though that not every single skill needs it. But even on, I think every single skill that maybe Necro has, other than one staff skill, maybe one staff skill, but then I think automatically there's a condition on it.
I have a feeling that it's probably more of a flavor thing than anything, because they've decided that they're shooting these Dragon Jade bullets. And the Dragon Jade bullets, when you're injecting Dragon Jade into yourself, is giving you Blight. So it should be doing something like that to your
So
enemies.
what you're kind of giving it, sharing the Blight in a way.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, you can say something first.
Oh, I was gonna say it does seem thematic, right? And it's tough because personally, I like when they re-envision, especially in Guild Wars 2, where we don't necessarily get, except for rarely, like all new classes, right? So for me, I kind of view elite specializations as like, yes, being tied to certain thematic or, you know, things that are inherent to a class in the core class. But I also think of them as great opportunities to, again, introduce something that's very new or different to that, so that if people are playing that particular class, you know, it feels like they've almost gotten something new, a new way to look at it and approach it. So on one hand, yes, I do think that the Condis, I was kind of like, oh, I was sort of hoping maybe we'd see some other kind of niche for Necromancer. I think it fits 100% with the themes. I think it's 100% in line with Necromancer overall. I think like all of that, I don't think it's like ridiculous, you know, but I was kind of hoping we'd get something different. But what balanced that for me was the fact that the rest of the playstyle and the stuff like the Blight and the trade-offs you're making and this like, I'm gonna do anti-shield on myself essentially, or I'm gonna do these other things. That made it really fun for me in a way that I think just putting Condi out, you know, I don't know, it feels like that makes it more of a thing that overall feels new to me.
I'm going to say that I agree that Condis are a very core part about Necromancer. But I think Torment, if we're talking about theme, is not the Condi to go with. Because this elite spec is so revolved around your health and your degeneration of your health, and, you know, focused on the life and your health pool, the Condi they should have gone with was poison, because poison directly influences.
There's a lot of poison in this as well.
Not. It's a lot of.
Skill 3 gives 3.
Skill 3 has a poison.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Replace potentially have poison in the place of torment, and then have torment on the kind of do a swap, straight up swap. maybe.
Yeah, I think we had enough torment with Scourge, and we see a lot of torment
point.
already. And if
Is there
you
any
want to-
immobilize?
That's interesting. I don't think there. I think there's.
Because I
can
know
go
there's
through
2
some of the
CC skills on your Harbinger thing. Is there any immobilize anywhere else on the thing? Because if they're trying to lay into torment with a new thing where torment hurts harder when they're not moving, are they trying to make it so that they're getting the people not
I think
to
they're
move?
trying to up their damage for PvE stuff as well.
Oh, okay.
But
That's what
I
it feels
think
like.
I think poison was the thematic condition. I would have liked to have seen them go down.
That's fair.
Torment is just we've seen it,
Mm.
and like if we're talking about the importance of life and death, poison also influences healing potential. So that could be really really strong in PvP.
Yeah.
But
There's,
then
of
what
course,
do you do with
traits that increase
PvE, I
poison
guess?
damage. Well, there's traits like in Ranger that increase the flat damage of what poison does, and like create, and even Thief has that as well. And you can have really strong poison application on Thief, though poison hasn't necessarily been highlighted too much on Necromancer, other than Corrosive Poison Cloud.
I think you're right.
Yeah, which isn't for poison really as well, half the time. Most people
Yeah,
use it.
Medically, I think you're right.
True. I think the only thing that could possibly influence this, as far as like why, again, maybe more thematically they chose something like Torment, could have to do with the actual influence of whatever ancient magic or ancient thing is in the jade that they are like using. Like it's possible that there's some element there with the lore that might justify why like it's a torment effect. But I mean, I kind of agree in that it does seem like, especially with that kind of like, there are alchemists and elixirs and life and death and hurting yourself and toxin, poison, like that seems to fall more in line for me as far as it goes. Although I guess the idea is that you're torturing yourself and others. So like, maybe that's what the torment is. But there could be something there because they didn't quite go into exactly what that thing trapped in the actual energy of the jade that they're kind of harnessing is.
That makes some sense.
Shall we talk a bit more about Harbinger Shroud?
I really want to talk about Harbinger Shroud.
Well, I was going to go
Go
through
ahead,
some of the
talk about
abilities.
it.
Like I was going to go through some because at the moment I've kind of got the stream up. And I was talking about
I
pistol
feel like the
first.
abilities kind of are affected by like the whole class mechanic, though, isn't it?
I mean, it's all, you know, you bloody well hope that everything synergizes. I mean, every single build, in every single elite specialization. But like the first, I just quickly have a little look at the pistol skills because it was just it's just the additional weapon because the weapon is also quite an important thing a lot of the time. But I mean, I think the pistol looks cool. The abilities, first ability is Tainted Bolts. You got 5 quick bolts of energy that explode on impact, and it has Torment, which Kroof doesn't like.
There's too much of it.
But it's just the stack. It's number of targets is 5, just like the look of it as well. And it just generally, and the second ability, Dark Barrage, to fire 6 bolts of tormenting energy. There you go. That fan out from you, and again, that's kind of more of an arced shot. But like is it the second skill? I can't remember if it's the second skill or the third skill, which has this kind of reverberates, doesn't it? Or was that something else I was thinking about? I can't remember. It looks, and again with the, is he just taking up Blight? Yeah, he is, and he's using it while he's in Shroud as well. I noticed that a fair bit, like using the pistol abilities while in Shroud is like, not pistol abilities, sorry, I mean he's in Shroud, my bad, I'm talking complete arse. What am I talking about? I'm on the wrong thing. I'm actually talking about something completely else.
So apparently
I'm
you
talking
wanted to talk about
completely
Harbinger
different.
Shroud
We were
after all.
talking about Shroud.
Apparently.
I was talking about Shroud. Ignore me completely. Wow, I'm having a day. Hey, I finished school this week. I'm in a place, all right, people. Sorry, that was why I was confused because the second ability was the reverberate. My bad. So
No
scratch
worries.
that. Everyone go back.
We'll reset.
Reset. I think.
All right. So how about we talk about Harbinger
Let's
Shroud?
talk about Harbinger
I would
Shroud.
love to talk about Harbinger Shroud for the first time. Let's do it.
Bro, do you perhaps have another thing you'd like to talk about?
No. It's been a long week.
Harbinger Shroud looks really interesting to me. I
go.
mean, I know like initially when we were going through, people were talking about like, oh, it seems like maybe you would only want to use it in like really specific moments, or like maybe you'd want to like minimize your time But the fact that it does seem to have some pretty potent abilities, and then the fact that there's also that trait, which I really like, that's the one where you can use it like when your bar isn't full and you can kind of like pop in and out and like do one thing in it. I think that's really neat. I like the flexibility of it. I like that it has this, other, you're using like the meter obviously to sort of pace it, but yeah, and also just the actual look of it is awesome. I love that, like, the alchemy kind of symbols that appear underneath your feet and all of the effect. It's just so neat.
So yeah, absolutely. So Harbinger Shroud, in case people didn't really understand in the stream or haven't seen it yet, Harbinger Shroud, essentially what it is instead of your normal shroud, when you click on it, you don't have a new health bar, right? So it doesn't replace your current health bar. If you're taking damage, you're taking damage from your, like, on your actual health. And on top of that, when you're in Harbinger Shroud, you are getting a stacking debuff on you that reduces your health. And it wasn't really shown to be that effective in the actual video we were watching, because he has, like, the dev mode on where he can't take any damage essentially. But the stacking debuff, I have a feeling, is going to be very punishing. So
it's half his health right now on the screen. Half his health. Yeah. That's a lot. Does it only go to maximum of half health?
I don't think so.
Like it does, because it's not ticking up.
It's not ticking anymore up.
But I think that might be something else though. Like, I think that might be dev stuff going on there. I think you can kill yourself with this, is my guess.
I don't think they'd allow you to do that.
Why wouldn't they?
Because they already don't allow you to kill yourself with Signative Rebirth.
I mean, photon, hello.
So I don't think they're really into
Holosmith can kill themselves.
Okay, so it is 50%. Okay, so
it is 50%. Yeah. Okay. But also you can kill yourself many times as Holosmith. I do it all the time.
You'll die faster, probably.
I definitely do that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's
and
unfortunate.
It's reducing your max health. Okay, so yeah, you're going to be very squishy after that. Now, the question is, I guess, if you're taking damage at the same time as reducing your max health, is the damage that you're taking going to be below your max health, your current max health, or your total max health? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's going to take it. Your health is 11,407 in the video. You will take damage from that. Yeah.
Right. So if you're taking damage at the same time as reducing your max health, you're just going to die in an instant if you're staying in a Harbinger Shroud.
If you come out, and as soon as you come out and you don't have Blight either, then your health's then you're essentially kind of healing, right? I guess, because your HP is going to go up, but you still
Does your Blight go away immediately when you?
No, it looks like it's fading away, right?
It ticks like every 2 seconds or so.
Yeah, and it stacks of Blight as well.
Yeah, so and then your elixirs also give you Blight.
Yeah, so it stacks in duration and stack.
Yeah, so it definitely feels like you're going to want to use your Harbinger Shroud periodically.
Very minimally.
In the fights. In the fights, yeah. Or building up to a fight.
And also, importantly, when you're not in Harbinger Shroud and you have low health, apparently your life force drains away from your Harbinger Shroud to give you health in combat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a completely different from any normal necro we've had before. So it's really interesting. Very interesting.
Having a very passive secondary heal at any given time. That will just slowly keep healing you up.
Like a virtue, maybe. Almost.
Your shroud is no longer your panic button to get a second health or life bar or whatever thing. It's the opposite of that. It's you only do it when you feel safe.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like it though.
This is a big payoff. Yeah. This is going to be a big payoff for people.
I think the high risk, high reward kind of thing with this is so fun. I just like it. It seems like lately I've seen in a lot of other MMOs this idea where, like, obviously they're looking to keep an eye towards balance, right? But because of that, they have maybe taken some of those classes that had more like a higher skill ceiling and then tried to make them like more in line and homogenize all the classes as far as their like play style and skill ceiling and potential kind of go. And I just was very excited to see that all three of these classes, I think, really have a sense of like some interesting level of like, if I really work at this, I can get better at it. And I felt so much. I felt that energy watching Harbinger, and also as well, very much Willbender, which we'll talk about later. But I was just like, wow, I really am excited to try and get to know this class and like get better at it, and get that like that, I guess, that thrill of high risk, high reward. Maybe I'll die, maybe I won't. Like, it's fun.
Yes, I am thrilled by that as well.
Willbender.
Willbender. I also am very concerned, not concerned. I'm also very interested in whether or not people are going to make ridiculously high vitality builds. Like, remember that a long time ago I made like a 40,000 health warrior in PvP. I don't know if you could still do that, but if you could make with the traits that you have, the minor trait or the whatever, you could give yourself another 240 vitality. There's a trait outside of Harbinger that also gives you vitality. If you could stack up your vitality ridiculously to get like 40,000, 50,000 hit points, that 50% max reduction brings you down to a normal amount of health.
Yeah.
So like, would you then not use Harbinger Shroud periodically? Would you use it all the time? Just constantly be in Harbinger Shroud if you wanted to?
That's why I was confused as to why they would give them a trait that increases their vitality, because they already, if they really
just to
wanted
soak things up, isn't it? Give you
But
more health.
they have another trait that increases their vitality baseline, and it's soul reaping. And really, with every elite spec, soul reaping has been taken because it's such a strong trait line. And I feel like in particular this will be really strong with the Harbinger Shroud. So I wondered why they did vitality, but I agree that they probably will be building vitality, but more so than that, I think toughness could be really strong here as well.
Isn't that their survivability as well? Like, there isn't many boons, right? That the Necro is going to be able to use. There is some. It wasn't exactly. There was something I can't remember. We have to go through the trait lines, but like each one we've seen has got some kind of defensive. Like Virtuoso had a lot in the trait lines. Necro hasn't really got that much. There's one stun break.
This one has all the elixirs, right? They give you a ridiculous amount of boons.
Yeah, but there's
there's the traits that say give it to your friends, and also there was I think one that gives you quickness every time you use. It's not
defensive though.
Like
there's only one elixir which is defensive that breaks stun, and then it's offensive when you use it, like elixir you use. So all the boons are very offensive. Wouldn't you say the one that
gives you all boons is a little defensive as well?
Possibly, but it's a 60-second cooldown. Like, that's it for an assassin class, but like that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the vitality could be more of that part of the defense. Like for the Necro, the vitality is the defense, whereas for everything else, the boons are defense. Like for Guardian, I mean, again, there's no wrong opinion about this. It's just another opinion.
I just came up with maybe an interesting idea for the elite. I feel like it's too easy. What if it was like, if you were below 50% health, you gain a bunch of defensive boons, and if you're above 50% health, you gain a bunch of offensive boons? Because I feel like that's kind of an easy button. That's kind of just like an easy, like, boom, done.
I like that design actually, Kroof, because that like you'll get the offensive boons when you want them, when you want to be offensive on a strike or something. Yeah, when you start a fight, and you'll get the defensive boons when you want them, which is when you need them. Although, if you're sharing boons, how does it work? Like, if you want to give the defensive boons to your allies, but you have high health,
you wouldn't take that trait.
Oh, it's a trait, not. All right, it's a trait for the elite.
If you use other elixirs, but when that.
Yeah, you could try. That's one thing we didn't totally talk about yet, but that I do really love, the idea of a support build for this one. Like, that got me very excited. I really love running support or healer, especially in like raid content or strikes or things like that. So I was like, that actually sounds really neat to do this, and then to have things like that huge hitting. I mean, obviously elite or stuff like that, where maybe you get this like massive utility for everybody. I think that's really a cool idea, while also trying to play around this, again, like self-punishing playstyle, which I think is just a cool, fun kind of way to turn it on its head a little bit.
It's like a buffer, right? In terms of support buffing, right? Like, we need a better, we need a word for this, because I guess support, in terms of so many games, like sometimes it crosses over. It's like, is it healing? Oh no, and in loads of games now, it's also damage increasing and defense increasing, and or barrier or resin capability, and it's like in raiding with druid. It's like you don't take a druid mainly for the healing, you take a druid mainly for the offensive buffs, and then it does healing as well. So it's kind of a bit of a lot of stuff, and then spotter and everything else it does, and it's like, okay, cool. So, but this is like now, because this is what we said Necro is missing as well, something to offer up in fights. We were talking a little bit about might earlier, but now as well, you're talking about like the other boons it can bring, like talking about better chest. So this is
also
good.
Gives it a ton of mobility too on the Harbinger shroud. There's the There's the dash, and then there's the leap that also CCs. I think they both CC, don't they?
One gives
fifth
torment.
skills.
I think the 3 gives the torment, and the 4th is the stun.
There's a 4 and a 5 that both CC though. There's one that floats.
5 is float, because that's the same torment. That's the torment kind of streams that come out from the core of Necro. I don't know what to call it. Yeah, they look like tentacles, don't they? But like, but it looks very similar to that, and it kind of slaps. Does it pull them up in the air? I flipping love that ability. The actual look of the shroud is so flipping cool. I'm gonna try and find it.
I'm wondering how. Okay, so I love the idea of the trade-off of damaging yourself in order to do awesome, ridiculously powerful things.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how much that's going to actually translate. In PvP, it's obviously going to translate because you can't use these things without being in trouble, because you're not going to be building a lot of vitality into yourself in PvP probably. But in other game modes, you might actually go ahead and put a lot of vitality on there, and then it kind of like reduces the effectiveness of
for roaming builds,
the Blight,
like in for like running around in maps, open maps, you don't want to necessarily do damage. You just want to stay alive and kill stuff.
I feel like in general PvE, you're just not going to even think about the Blight anymore. You're just going to be going around with half as much health as you usually do, but not really care because you're doing so many powerful things.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's nice to have that feeling. Just looking at the actual shroud, I'm hoping it goes back into it. But like, I think I just generally like, I just like the whole feeling of this card. It's just so different from what it is. Like, and someone said in chat, I like that it doesn't step on the toes of Scourge. Like, it's nothing like Scourge whatsoever in terms at all. Like, it's completely the opposite. So, but it still offers, like you say, the kind of support of the elixirs, I guess. But I don't know.
That, soul suck thing is so cool. I don't know what that is.
Yes.
Visually pleasing.
Right, the souls.
Yeah, it just like
come up.
It feels dynamic. If like watching it is exciting, it's engaging, it's in line with like the abilities and what you're doing. I really like the design of this one. I'm excited to try this one out.
I've been thinking about combinations, traits and stuff already, because Necro is one of the ones like I play Necro and Guardian a lot. I play Engineer the most, but like Elixir builds, I love playing Elixir builds on my Engineer. I'm playing him right now, and like Throw Elixir X is like one of my favorite abilities when you just turn people into mowers, and I'm like, I wanted something like that for this. So I was hoping maybe I could turn people into like, jagged horrors or something. That would have been so cool. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but yeah, I love that animation.
Turn them into balloons. They float.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. So that would have been cool if you turn them into like hovering jagged like horrors and just like dropped them. The shroud ability that does look very good, you're right. But the is it the third skill when you've got the little kind of teeth coming out of the ground, the spikes, and then there's the little people standing on top, like gives you an idea of what that ability does. I think it's really nice, which it hovers like, and you've got this circle kind of that floats up around you. There it is. It's right here. Oh no, actually that might be a different thing because I didn't see the people hooked on top. But
is that a 3-second float or a 4-second float?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna actually go back over and have a look.
I don't know.
A long float either way.
Actually, they did kind of float for a decent amount of time, 3 or 4.
Yeah, and it's on a 20-second cooldown.
Or was it 30-second cooldown?
Was it?
I think it's like a 2 seconds float. I don't know.
It's hard to see.
I mean, we'll be able to see soon as well, hopefully. The thing is, a lot about this is me getting my hands on it. I have to get my hands on it. Like, I can theorize a lot better when I get my hands on the thing.
Tuesday.
Yeah, it's not far away at all. Okay.
I also like that the utilities do apply Blight as well. Because that, I guess, is some sort of trade-off for, enhancing your own abilities, which is very romantic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish.
I would have liked if they did something a bit extra for the elixirs, though, because they do kind of feel like buff yourself. I would have liked to have been like you throw the elixir and it does something.
Yeah,
I think.
What can you do though? I guess
I'm not that mad at it because it is a really, give and take type system. And I think this helps as well. And there's also other traits that you gain like improvements if you have Blight on yourself.
it makes you feel more. It makes you feel more like, I don't know. It definitely makes it feel like more of an on the move kind of thing, like more of a. Here's your abilities, you use those for damage, and here's your utilities, you use those to enhance them. And there's an ability to stun break you and enhance you as you get out of that. It's kind of, but like elixirs, there's loads of people don't like elixir gameplay because it's just you drinking a bottle of stuff. And I'm like, I really like it because I just want to focus on my damaging abilities.
Like there's no like interesting transformation or.
Yeah, that's why I would have liked the transformation. I think you're right about that.
Because it's
That could
the
be cool.
engine, you can, like shrink yourself.
Yeah.
But like this is just like you gain a boon.
Like the elixir on you when you throw it, like gets the res off, which is really, really nice. Like that used to be a support utility, which was quite big for engineer, and then they nerfed into the ground and completely got rid of it, which made me sad. And you can like remove conditions, AoE conditions. You can you AoE remove stun on throw elixir U. Yeah, and like I said, the Moa as well, and then the regen and the protection and whatnot from the heal. So it's, but like it doesn't want to be too close to something else because like it has to have its own thing, and that's where the Blight is, right?
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, there were so many people who even right off the bat, if they were like, oh well, if they have potions, it's just gonna be like NG and potion. It's gonna be elixirs. It's just gonna be this thing. You're just gonna throw them, and it's gonna be the same play style. And so I feel like they very purposefully, again, made it something that, like, I drink this for me. It's my nasty Kool-Aid. I use it.
Yeah, that's true.
So that it feels something that isn't quite as infringing. But I do agree that it would have been really interesting. I mean, and this would have been difficult, right? Like, especially with all the different types of characters and models and sizes and shape. Like, it would have been really interesting to see something that, I mean, their equivalent is the Blight, right? Which we visually see represented. But it would have been cool even if, like, I don't know, the more of them you drank and the lower your health went down, you had, like, jade jutting out of you or something. Or, like, where it was almost this, like, transformation where, like, maybe you were super powerful, but you were kind of becoming a monster and might die, which would be, like, really interesting. And maybe would even go into that torment element more if, it seemed like you were really in pain while it was happening. But I mean, I think it's still cool. I think they visualized that through the Blight, and it's an effect that works on all characters and models and things. So
I like the Blight look as well, how it fades from you kind of thing. I do like that.
Yeah,
I like the giant backflip.
That's good.
Yeah, that movement, mobility. Yeah, that's interesting that they've put that movement inside the shroud, and there is no fear, which Valen said actually in the chat earlier. There is no fear with shroud, which is something which has always been around. It's more of a stun, which is this fourth. Is it the fourth skill? I can't remember which skill, but like 4 shroud skill. Wait, shroud skill 3 is the fear normally, isn't it? Yeah, 4 is not the fear, but 4 is. Yeah. So with this, I'm interested to see. Like imagine and the res on blood. Working with Shroud Skill 4, like how strong that might be in a fun build, like as a resing build, like in PvE and in PvP, like just how cool that might be. Like thinking about those combinations and thinking about Spectral Walk and other things in with the elixirs. Like you have the Stunbreak elixir with the boons, and you have the Spectral Walk getting in close, doing that CC, putting in a ton of damage, Spectral Walking port back, and then just having all these cool things like all together. I'm just like, or you could even just drop in and just drop like Plague, like big elite AoE and stuff like that. I'm just like, there's so much potential for this build, and I am excited for next week. Like this is the stuff. There's so many people enjoying this game. Like, and it's the combat and the elite specs are like so important in this game. It's just like I'm not going to say what I was going to say because that might be cheeky, but I feel like if without it, I would be I think at times I might be concerned about the game because it's such a pinnacle, huge part of it. Because there are MMOs that are still around that don't survive on their combat, because of the strength of other places in the game. And I think the combat is sincerely one of the biggest pulls of Guild Wars 2 that is just so underrated. Anyway, do you want to talk more about this, or do you want to gush over Guardian? I don't know. Just trying to be honest.
Traits anybody wants to talk about? I kind of forgot what the traits were.
I can bring the traits up. I like the design.
That I'm the most was the vitality thing.
Yeah,
it's
you really
a
don't
lot
like
of
that.
vitality. It's 360 vitality baseline.
Oh, is it that much?
I don't think
Interesting.
we've seen a vitality stat that has given that much.
So that 22,000 health, 22 something is baseline health. That's like without any vitality on them.
Yeah.
Yep. You can
Which
get
is
that
a lot.
higher up
If
anyway.
you have that, you're now just a guardian or an Ellie. So if they can survive, surely a necro can find ways to.
I like how he just goes straight to the vitality trait just as we're talking about
That's a
it.
good point, Drew.
That's not unique per game mode. So I hope with PvP. Honestly, I would have preferred if this was instead vitality toughness.
But it's a minor trait as well. At least it's not a choice. I mean, maybe like
That's the problem.
that
'cause
is the
it's a
problem,
minor
isn't it?
trait.
But like, is it so you'd want to see that switch for something else? Maybe they
think
just didn't know what to put there. They were just like
I think
vitality.
anything toughness, because that could mean the one area of weakness for this spec would be having conditions applied to you. Because conditions do not scale off of toughness; it's vitality. So that would give it a weakness.
Depends on how many. But the thing is, like vitality, there is a lot of physical builds potentially maybe in this expansion, and if there is a lot of physical builds, then it's actually worse to have vitality. I mean, then toughness would be better.
The other elite specs as well. Like
That's
there's
the
so
thing,
much
we don't know, I
content on
guess.
fire, like
It's-
already in the game.
Yeah, Buffer Fire was very, but this is also Blight and the Dragon Jade and Condition.
But if anything, it says unique per game mode. So I'm hoping that in PvP
They
it's
reduce
kind of
it.
like 150, like they half it or something.
I think they don't like putting toughness baseline into something because then it interacts with the raid scenario where you might take away the tanking from the tank.
Either toughness or just like there's an armor piece or just I don't know.
Well, there's the other Necro armor stat, isn't there, for the what's it called? It's with minions. I can't remember.
Yeah,
what it's
yeah.
called.
The
You know
minion
what I'm
trainer.
talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Flesh of the Master or something.
something like that. Yeah. Corrupted talent gain life force when you enter Harbinger shroud. That's fine.
That's cool. I love that. And Rook was talking about that as well. Like just popping in.
Yes, I think that's so neat. I like that idea because I mean it's fun when you have something where you have to like build up a gauge and then the gauge is full and then you use the thing. Like a lot
You
of
don't play Final
classes
Fantasy
will
14
pace
at all.
out they'll pace out like their burst windows around something like that or things. But I really do like the idea that there is a different way that you can do that, where like you can take this and then you can be like, well, maybe I really only want to use this one specific thing. So if I like hit it really fast and then go, I can do that. And I think that's just fun. It adds more flexibility into how you might approach or like what your own personal pacing of the class would be so that it's not like, even within the class, there's variation, it's different from other necromancers, but it also feels like, oh, hey, I can even have different pacings of playstyles with this elite spec within the elite spec.
Yeah.
And it definitely seems like the Harbinger Shroud have a few panic button things in there. So like if you are in a tight spot, you could pop into Shroud even without any life force and hit that ground targeted backflip or front flip evade and get the hell out of there.
So, I mean, I guess thinking about the first trait that kind of is on screen is this one called Wicked Corruption. It says deal increased strike damage for each stack of Blight you have. So then, like that trait, I guess with more vitality enables you to have, I guess, just a little bit more health. I feel like it is a buffer because I feel like they might be worried about people. I think like getting low HP, and I don't think that's a good reason to have like as such a big trait. But I kind of like it being there. It would be nice to see it be something a little bit more thematic. I can't remember like thinking about other trait lines and other classes how many have that kind of stat. I know some do, but like not many lines. But I have to kind of remind myself. Boots as well. You're saying there is some big like oh crap buttons. I mean, the Elixir is one. What's this one? Septic Corruption. Deal increased condition damage for each stack of Blight you have. Shroud skill 2 also inflicts poison. So they have gone for a little bit of poison, but you have to opt in, it sounds like, really, for that. I'd like to go for a poison kind of.
If they swapped the placement of Torment and Poison, I feel like that'd be kind of cool. At least a little bit better. To kind of at least allow a condition play style. Because I think it's still okay to have a different condition play style, even though we have Scourge. Because Scourge is based around Torment and Burning. So if this was instead more focused on Poison with extra Torment, that could at least feel a little bit different.
I'm just wondering if they've got something else which is more focused around poison now.
That's true.
It's making me think about Faith.
That's true. Could be. I mean, these are the first 3, right? So like we haven't even yet gotten to Willbender. I mean, there's so much to talk about.
Oh god.
And
this
yet, like, these 3 kind of all, like we said, share some similarities in mobility and various play styles.
Yeah.
But it does make me wonder then, like, what are these other groupings going to be for our future ones? And I mean, I can't wait to like get our hands on these ones next week, because I think, again, a lot of this we'll have to see how it plays out. As always, like, never jump to, this goes to anybody, right? Never just jump to absolutes when we just don't have true definite information, and this is all a work in progress anyway, right? So they could change whatever before the actual release. But
well, yeah, that's it.
We are beta testing these, so things will inevitably be changing.
So the trait that I don't know if it's still on there, I pause the thing. The trait that you have there is one of those traits that...
The vials one, sorry?
The vials one, yeah.
Can you just read it if you want to, so that people can understand what it is?
Okay, so vials, good point, right? This is an audio medium.
Yeah.
So vials here is a minor trait that says, or my adept trait says... Elixir skills gain reduced recharge, so 20% reduced recharge, like things do. But they also inflict vulnerability and slow on the enemy. So it does look like whatever they're running here has some expertise, because it would be weird for the base slow to be 6 3/4 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing there's some expertise built in there somewhere. Maybe it's a minor trait, I don't know. But that's a lot of slow. So this trait kind of makes sense. With that huge amount of slow, if you consider the trade-off that you're supposed to be going for this spec of only use your elixirs sparingly because you don't want that blight on you.
Yeah.
But if you are doing the whole idea where you just stack a bunch of vitality on yourself and don't care that you have blight on you, this trait becomes kind of busted, because putting 6 seconds of slow on 5 targets around you every time you use an elixir, it's like permanent slow.
Imagine the down state, like if you need to save your team.
There's a way to do it. Could just, if it affected 3 targets and was brought down to like 180 radius.
Again, this could be changed in PvP.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're gonna have a beta, right?
Look at it. It says it on the trait.
Now, because it does say this trait is unique for game mode.
Yes.
So I feel like with these elite specs, I hope, and I, of course, seeing these traits, they've probably created these traits for each game mode. They really took the time
the whole of everything.
Examined how they're. I hope everything, but definitely. So I hope this one will probably be not as bad. This could even have a cooldown.
I love this. I absolutely love this trait. I think it's flipping interesting.
Good.
Like, you have the opportunity to be like an assassin that can actually help your team in doing more than just killing people. Like, you can jump, like if someone of your teammates is dead, you can jump in and get some slow off and vulnerability, bring out a ton of damage, and just like assist in you're still essentially killing, but you can combine that with like one of your shroud skills as well, and like control a fight a bit, and it just feels a bit fun. It could be broken as well, in all honesty, but that's what we got the beta for, and I feel like that will change maybe. But I also feel like I would like to have that for 5 people just to test what that's like, and then maybe adjust. What I would love to see is have some adjustments during the beta, in all honesty. I think that's a bit much to ask.
For a couple days. It's like 4 days or so.
Yeah, 17th to 21st.
Maybe I think after they'll come out with like, here are the things that we have maybe changed.
Yeah, this is what we've heard from you guys. This is what we're gonna try to fix.
So implacable, implacable. Sorry, wait. How do I read? Sorry?
Gain stability when entering Harbinger shroud. Gain ferocity based on your vitality.
See, there you go. It's sending that vitality.
But that interaction with the panic button situation going on too, giving yourself a nice 3 stacks of stability on the fly and without any like resources needed for it's pretty good.
What was the cooldown on the shroud then?
It's usually 10 seconds.
I wonder if we can find 2538 is where we are there. Let's have a look. I think he might have the dev commands on there, right? Like you were saying. Trying to see 25. Don't know if I'm gonna find it. Go into shroud.
Hopefully he hovers over the tooltip and just doesn't like use the hotkey.
Yeah.
Good lord. But anyway, yeah,
it has a cooldown because it's attached to your shroud.
It depends how much it is.
So whenever your shroud's on, and also you don't need life force. Nope. So if you need stability with that minor trait, you can just pop into shroud and get stability if you really need it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
And that's where the defense comes, and I think that might be okay, but there might need to be an ICD on that. There should be an internal cooldown, I think.
Even longer than the shroud cooldown?
Yeah, the shroud has its own internal cooldown.
I mean, I guess so. It's just 10 seconds.
So it's a 5 seconds of stability. Let's say it's the same normal shroud as everything else. That's 10 seconds of shroud cooldown. So if you pop in and out, even with 100% boon duration, it's not going to be 100% stability uptime by just popping in and out of shroud and not doing anything. So I think it's balanced. It's just very good.
It's very good.
It's a good. I think it's a good. I could have maybe been a. Could that have been a grandmaster? That might be a bit boring for a grandmaster. Maybe it's a survival.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could have been longer. Okay. All right. Shit.
Yeah, this class just feels like it has a lot of really good just synergies with stuff inside of it. It just feels like there's a lot of ways you can powerfully build it, and I feel like overall it's looking strong. But again, I don't feel like these, even like you were saying, Kroof, even with Willbender, I feel like they've been very conscious of not setbacks but balances within the class themselves, and I'm sure they're going to be stronger than probably they'll end up being even. But I mean, I do think that they have seemed to keep an eye on balancing things, even if there are some pretty like powerful kind of ways that you can kind of build things out.
Oh, Rick, balancing Guild Wars 2. It happens so often.
No, look, I do not envy them in this game. Like, I do not envy them. You know what I mean? It's like the amount of things, and even just hearing everybody talk about the fact that, like, yes, certain things in certain game modes are different. Like, so few other MMOs really balance stuff out like this for the vast diversity of content. Like, we've seen so many other
game modes aren't even like equal pegging like in terms of quality. That's the problem, because Elder Scrolls Online is like BGs they literally don't care about, and so it's like I'm sorry about Elder Scrolls Online players, they just don't. And it's like, so they don't balance for that at all. And like Cyrodiil is like, they balance a little bit, but they kind of don't really bother. And then PvE is just, they change things up. And the same with loads of MMOs. Like Final Fantasy 14, do they balance what? I mean, they've only got really the two mode, like they've got PvE, and then the PvE stuff isn't supposed to be.
They didn't necessarily like balance specifically for PvP in mind. What they've done is they've created reduced skill sets. So like when you go in, it like condenses down your skill set into like an abbreviated version. And I'm sure there are some things within that. So it's like it like condenses it down, and kind of like we were talking about earlier as well with their classes, they've also kind of recently gone the route in 14 of like tuning everything within a bracket. So we've had some high skill ceiling classes, I think really simplified. We've had, and again, it's not to say that it isn't still really fun to play, but they've definitely gone like the opposite route of Guild Wars 2 in the question of balancing, in the sense of like, well, we can make everything a bit more kind of the same in practice with generally the same range of results, to have more consistent balance, which is good, but you lose some of the fun like variety of things like Guild Wars 2, where you really do have stuff that completely throws a huge curveball, or a patch that can totally change something, or classes that can be built in just absolutely diverse ways. So it's always this like balancing act, like, do we have more fun?
Act, you say?
Hey, but it really is literally like, do you make things more homogenized, easier to balance, or continue to do variety and possibly shift that up to change meta periodically.
Yeah.
Boots, you called it. People are going to be pumping vitality into the Harbinger. These middle traits all have to deal with vitality. And this trait in particular is I'm a little interested. And well, except the Elixir one doesn't have vitality, but it's weird. I was kind of hoping that Necro wouldn't feel super tanky, but they're kind of like promoting you to really build still pretty tanky with like the emphasis on vitality.
I don't know. I know you don't like the vitality trait, Griff.
No.
I don't know about that.
Thing, but, like,
not sure.
I'm just saying, like,
I don't think it's that impactful. I think the stability trait is more impactful than the vitality. If you think about how much
great about it,
the Dark Gunslinger trait as itself is, I think, a little. I don't know how powerful that would be. It's just expertise and your pistol skills have reduced cooldown. So it's like if you want to go for the pistol, you'd probably go for that.
What I really like about that particular minor trait that gives 260 vitality is this. Because of the fact that with it, your Necro has 222,000 something vitality. If you had max Blight, the worst possible scenario for your character, you will have the same amount of health as an elementalist or doing the same thing.
That's the thing. That's what it's about.
Without any Blight on them.
It's so supposed to be. Yeah.
If you're doing the thing that you're supposed to be like taking so much trade-off because you're getting so powerful because of it, you're just a normal elementalist in health now.
And you've got hardly any reflex, hardly any vulnerability, hardly any skills, because Elementalist has a lot of defensive abilities in their kit on weapons and on the elite bar, and Necros just don't, so they need that HP. So like when you explain it like that, Boots, it does make more sense now to me as well.
I do like Scuttles says in the chat, I think it's cool that vitality will be an in-demand attribute. For so long, the meta has been glass cannon. I like that too. I like the idea that I guess building around other things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Marauder, right. There's some where like you do have different builds, but I like the idea of maybe featuring something or creating some system where you could build around maybe a less featured trait to balance out what you're doing to yourself in the class, basically.
Would you say vitality is a not often took like attribute for Necro? I don't think that's the case.
I don't think that's. I think in PvE, like more competitive game modes instead of PvE, it's taken more often because of the fact that Condis are so prevalent,
and also because it's scaling off of your shroud. The more vitality.
And it's, yeah.
I gotcha. See, I don't play much Necro, so.
I think vitality has often been taken on Necro.
Yeah, true enough.
I think with the amulet in PvP at the moment, the reason there's vitality on it, but the reason people take it is because of the power and condition combination, and for Lich is the reason. The main stats. Yeah, I think vitality is a thought. It's not a focus.
It's like the secondary thing that Necros, more so than other professions, tend to focus on.
I agree, because life force is based off of vitality.
It depends, what you want to do. If you want to be bursty and conditioning, you want to be damage oriented, if you want to be more tanky, because even in PvE, I mean, you're not really focusing on. As a roaming build and minion mancer builds, vitality is good in minion mancer builds for sure. But yeah, if you want to be a support healer. Yeah.
So Harbinger Boon support, this is a good thing to talk about. Obviously, you got your Elixir, so that's a ton of boons for yourself, but you have that major trait, not even a Grandmaster trait, that gives it to your friends as well. And also, there's like quickness involved, etc., etc. Huge boon support is basically we decided in the thing that it's like a firebrand in what it can provide, probably. Two things, except for a lot less utility, like Aegis stability, stuff like that.
Here you go. Sorry, 2 seconds, Boots. I'm gonna literally interrupt you and be massively rude right now because of what you were saying in terms of the elixirs.
I was gonna say, but it's only 240.
Obliterate him, destroy Boon.
No. That's I'm kind of like talking because you said about the elixir frozen as a vitality thing. And were you talking about Twisted Medicine or were you talking about something else?
I don't know what you're talking about.
There's this Elixir trait where it says Elixir skills also grant their boons to nearby allies, right? Which is kind of what you're talking about.
Exactly that one.
And then gain concentration based on your vitality.
Oh, I was right. All middle.
Oh, that's another thing. Wow.
And
yeah,
that is
more vitality.
the synergy there in that trait specifically. So like Kroof now, more people might focus on a little bit more vitality. So
you know what's interesting about that trait in particular? That's like a PvP trait because you don't get many options to get boon duration anymore in the PvP traits.
Well, especially based on vitality.
You still have ways to get vitality in PvP gear. You don't have good ways of getting boon duration in PvP gear anymore, except for runes.
Yeah, but not off of like vitality specifically.
Exactly.
Like,
so now you're getting boon duration based off of your vitality. So that's great.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder who suggested that.
So the one thing I was going to say about this trait is that range, the 240, is not very large. No. So you guys are going to be stacked pretty well for it to be very useful, which is very doable.
Yeah. Especially there is like the dash on the skill. No, sorry, I'm thinking about Guardian. There is a bit of mobility on this, so you could get in, do the damage, and then jump out, I guess. And then like Spectral Walk, like I was talking before, Spectral Walk's got a lot of play. I think you're going to see a lot of people using that ability.
When it comes to support skills or traits like this, I don't mind when they have larger radius.
Yeah.
But when it's mostly damaging and control, that's when I'm like, does that really need to be 360 radius? I'm looking at you, Firebrand. So I wouldn't mind if they actually up this a bit, particularly in world versus world settings.
What's a 360 or like more?
Yeah, 360. I think 360 is a nice radius for support stuff because, I mean, if you want to be like playing a bit more ranged, or because you have a pistol as well, if you want to play a bit more ranged or you don't necessarily want to be in the fight, perhaps you have a lot of blight on yourself.
Yeah.
But you still want to support because maybe you're doing a more supportive build. I think 360 is a good range to at least be away from the fight to still play that boon support role.
Do they want you to get that involved though? To maybe for the risk of it, maybe, I guess, potentially.
But I think if you're already playing a playstyle that isn't focused on damage and doing condition stuff, I don't know why they'd be forcing you to go in too much. Yeah, so I wouldn't mind this being a little bit bigger.
So is this gonna be like a ray? You think that's so more bigger for like the more competitive stuff because that's fine for PvE, right? Okay. So maybe that could change in a game mode. I don't know if it said it there, and I can't be asked to go back. But like maybe that's that's a good point.
I think we may have covered the Harbinger.
We haven't gone over the
I feel like we've done it. I feel like it's a pretty good initial run.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I think the Willbender, we have a lot.
Sorry.
There's so much to go into that.
I think it's because you both main Guardian, and I think Boots and we play Guardian quite a lot as well. This is gonna be the good shared. Do you want to go over Virtuoso? We went over kind of, didn't we?
Yeah. Virtuoso, go sit down.
Virtuoso, sit you down. You're not as cool as the other ones, but maybe you'll prove us wrong.
3 weeks ago.
I like how Virtuoso is first of all like, I really like Guardian and don't like this, but I should be diplomatic.
We respectfully tell you that we don't care about you right now.
Oh wow.
Respectfully, put your daggers away and sit your butt on the ground.
And that's what the Willbender's telling thieves as well.
Oh, the Reddit is so good right now.
Oh, is it on Reddit? Uh-oh.
Yeah, there's so many memes on Reddit.
The memes are okay. Like, as long as people don't start crying about thief and being like, well, just play the Guardian then, multi-class. That's what Guild Wars is about, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we've been learning throughout the 9 years of playing Guild Wars 2. Essentially, we should just all be playing Guardian. That's
I thought you were going to say we should all be multi-classing to make the game more interesting. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But
I see people in chat saying that Guardian has taken everyone's job, even Thief. But what if the Thief takes the Guardian's job? What if the Thief takes the Guardian's job? Okay,
exactly.
True. What if the new spec is, instead of Dragon Hunter is Dragon Punter? That's coming. They just steal the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Traps.
It becomes Thief mains. They're gonna be like, yes, this is our Guardian.
the thing it doesn't have is it doesn't have stealth. So there is that. I mean, I know Dragon Hunter has stealth through traps, but like, that's a rune.
Yeah.
I also like Das Gangles, Thief's new spec, Liar brand.
You have to change the brand bit a little bit. Can't take his own job. Can it? Yeah, the Guardian is so strong now. It just does this. It just takes its own. It's a spec now. It does its own job better. I don't know.
So one thing about Willbender versus a Thief discussion, right, is that Thief has a ridiculous amount of mobility. We all agree. Willbender has a ridiculous amount of maybe even more going to the target mobility than a Thief does. Based on just one trait line, it looks like you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 different shadow steps or run to targets.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And there's a trait there that gives you alacrity for a long amount of time, so you just use them a lot more quick also. Now the thing is, the Thief that the Willbender doesn't have, I think the Thief will still have more ability to get away from targets. Besides the fact that you have stealth, which is ridiculously handy. Yep. They're not the ways that the Thief can get away are more, you don't have to go towards your target the whole time. You could leave and go somewhere else and teleport anywhere you want. But the Willbender, it seems like there's only 2 out of those like 7 movement skills that you could actually move somewhere other than towards your target.
Right.
So there's that.
Also, we don't know what Thief's getting. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, like, I as always wouldn't worry too much about, I don't know, something just, and now everything else is ruined. I think that this one does look really strong, which is something to keep an eye on, right? Like we were even talking about, do we think that like the balance is going to be, good enough, which is partially why they're doing these beta events, right? But I mean, one thing that I have always felt as, playing Guardian, whether I most commonly have done like power Dragon Hunter or, heal support Firebrand. So like with those, Dragon Hunter does have decent mobility, but again, it's like there are these like 2 specific skills or, a little bit of something that you can do there. And then on Firebrand, it's like you can do so much stuff, but mobility is not really like your inherent strong suit, just like being able to dodge around the field at all, like at light speed. It's not necessarily something that you do. So I really like that they've decided to go the route of something that is really fast paced, that really does seem to be mostly about the way that you are strategically positioning, the way that you are strategically using those abilities. I love that because I think that this will give something to Guardian that is, again, a class that has that higher skill ceiling that you can really, really learn how to use in an effective way to really bring dexterity into the class as opposed to just, alacrity or things like that. Like it's an actual tangible dexterity that you can use that then can be a benefit. And I'm like super into that. I think it looks awesome.
Yeah. I think that probably it will be the most fun thing to play for a very long time. Like if you have those mobility skills on your virtues, you take that mobility skill utility, you have your sword teleport, you have the sword dash, you have judgment, whatever it's called, the teleport as well, and then you take that judge's intervention, the judge's prevention utility. So all your utilities are teleports or movement. All your virtues are movement. 2 out of 5 of your weapon skills are movement. And if you think about it, yes, you could only teleport towards your target, but if you're in a fight with multiple people, you could bounce between 2 different targets. And it'll just be the most fun thing to play, I think, ever.
I think movement is definitely its strong suit, and I'm happy to see that the numbers, at least right now, it doesn't feel like it's going to be able to kill someone in like 1 second. Like sometimes Thief, I think Thief also
Someone
will
clip
prevail.
That. Someone clip that.
So
It's an important
far,
clip to
that's
get.
my impression.
It's an important one. Someone please
So
clip that.
I think Thief also has better burst potential, but this in particular, it feels like you have to ramp things up in order to start doing more damage, particularly with the minor traits. So you'll have great access to get to targets, but once you get there, it's how good you are as a Willbender, which will decide if you can win the fight, if you can help, do a team fight, etc., etc. So I like that playstyle, and we'll get into maybe the traits later. But overall, Willbender is my favorite right now.
What
I
is it
agree,
like,
like-
a? Sorry, so I was just gonna ask
Oh,
a
you're okay.
very very quick question because they're like your favorite thing. But like, is there a place where you were like immediately thinking where it would be good for like what you play? Because I know you play PvP a lot, but like in PvE, what was it that you were thinking of, Griff, when you were like, oh, the way why you're like, oh, this is gonna be fun and I'm gonna enjoy this?
Well, I think in
Or is
terms
it
of
general?
PvP, this could be a really strong team fight in particular to like focus a target. Like if you're with people and someone target the Scourge or the other healer, you have a lot of CC application and also that elite, which will you can isolate that target. And then if they're isolated and CC'd, of course, with other people helping, you can really strike down that target pretty quickly. So I think overall PvP, a lot of these things have more weight because you're playing with other players. In PvE, of course, it's just you're fighting against non-players, so it's like
It's still gonna be fun to get around a map like that.
to be so
Oh, yeah.
fun.
For sure.
PvE is gonna be great.
Yeah, I agree that I think it does feel maybe like something that's more, well, it's always going to be more interesting in something like PvP, right? Because I think in PvE, you have a very specific set understanding of mechanics, of how enemy behavior goes. Most open map stuff, those enemy mobs, if you're doing just about anything, they're going to burn fast enough that, again, do you always have to like tactfully position yourself in the most strategic way to get to? No, you don't necessarily. But like the fact that against another human, where outwitting each other or anticipating movements and all those sorts of things is a massive part. I think that those high mobility classes shine. However, like you said, I don't think it's not going to be fun in other content, right? I mean, I really like the idea that it has that momentum base. So they're building around the mechanic of mobility. They're building around this, idea with it, where if you get into the literal flow and you're kind of, powering between these different groups, or if you're able to use your mobility in such a way that you're not losing, again, that pacing or uptime to the class, I think it's going to be really fun to just like go ham. And, in things like I saw people mention in the chat, fractals, stuff like that. Or even, in between the different bosses in raid wings or in bosses where there may be mobility or ads or these different, areas you're trying to get to quickly. I think it's going to be super fun. Like, I think you'll have a great time doing it.
Like after the first boss in
The chase potential is incredible.
The chase potential. So that's the thing. Okay. For one thing, yeah, I think that this could be, besides being a roamer, it could be a fantastic. I mean, technically, a roamer's job is to be an anti-roamer as well, but this is like the anti-roamer as well. So you're gonna be chasing down your thief or your mesmer going all over the map, and you're just gonna knock him down. On top of that, overall, when we're looking at this thing, are you feeling the same way I am, that this is maybe a little strong?
Yes.
Overall, yes, the dopamine is here for a reason.
Think it would. I think you put this versus a Reaper though in PvP, and I think it dies pretty damn quick if you get caught.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I do. Reaper, like Boon
They have a lot of
corrupts.
crowd control. Your healing is a block. You can get away from the stuns and the
Only
big
if you get
hits.
caught in melee. And this is why
but
Reaper
even
is
if you
so
get caught
good.
in melee, you have
I play Reaper
7
a lot.
movement abilities.
I'm
You have
telling
7
you,
movement
man.
abilities.
I'm telling you. Like if you lock that, but if you get that Reaper Shroud 5 off, I know it can. I don't think it's got many stun breaks, as far as I
It's got a
remember.
stun break that actually launches you back away from the
Is
target.
it 1 though? And what's the cooldown on it? I can't remember.
It's
All
I
classes
mean,
have
this
one.
was also PvE, so the PvP.
I mean, I
cooldown
know.
can be
but,
complete.
And you
like,
still have the stun breaks from your core class.
Yeah, you got stun breaks. Your stun break on this evades away from foes, so you're not going to get caught, and you can catch people quickly. But I think the thing is, you have to be able to hit them to do damage, and I think that's the one trade-off.
but
But
then
there's a lot of gap closers.
There's a lot of gap closers, but hey, other people they might deal with movement too. Yeah.
But I mean, I think that is the big tempering force, right? Like some of those abilities, you have to get every single hit off. So it's like you get in there and then you have to get those hits off. Or, like the bonus, the damage bonus, if you have like your momentum has been going and you've been using all these abilities, again, that's dependent on your momentum going and like being able to chain all of these abilities and flow together. Things like the block, again, it's a timing thing because it's pretty short. And like, if you don't time that perfectly, you're gonna get hit and die
And it's all
anyway.
melee as well.
Yes.
And
So,
all
like-
melee.
You'll probably have to be pretty good to play it, but I think if you're a good player playing this,
Like
it's
Yeah.
gonna be
It will be
insane.
Yes.
powerful. I think it will be powerful if you
I
were really.
agree. I mean, I don't think we've even remembered that the minor trait gives you increased movement speed by default. That was insane to me.
Well, they
It's like
don't
not
have
only
it.
do you-
Like, no,
but I think
most
there's a great
do have
reason
it.
as to why they don't have it, and I don't think they needed it on this spec. Like, because there are so many gap closers. Like, your movement speed by default is improved now.
Yeah.
So like,
So they can
and
take another
movement
rune, probably.
is super powerful. And it's like, this
Yeah.
is going.
Do they get
to, I
access
think,
to swiftness
should-
though as well?
We should probably talk about the traits then, I think.
Do they get access to swiftness? Like, does anyone remember if they
I
do?
forget. Probably.
They get swiftness on their stun break.
Right.
Okay.
It was swiftness and no. What do you get alacrity on? It was alacrity and something else, regeneration, that you get on. It's a Grandmaster trait. When you use your second virtue resolve, you get probably 10 to 20 seconds of alacrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to actually talk about the animations. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Back. Oh, we're at 257. Okay. So, like, I'm going to slow motion some of this because I couldn't do that on Twitch.
The
Make sure you can-
animations on all of these elite specs have been incredible as just a blanket statement. They've been really
Agreed.
cool looking.
We're going to have to
Mine.
eventually talk about the Grandmaster that I think
Oh, yes.
is
Oh,
gonna be changed.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that even they were like, this one's kind of spicy. So,
Did he say the car came up with it? I can't remember.
I don't
It's
know.
on YouTube now.
But
Oh,
it's like-
okay. Thank you.
So this Grandmaster trait says essentially, your third virtue, courage. You pop it. It gives you stability and Aegis. Does this Grandmaster trait change it so you don't get stability Aegis anymore?
you don't get Aegis anymore, but you still get stability.
You still get stability. Okay. On top of that, if you kill anybody while it's up, it increases the duration of it. So that's kind of interesting. But on top of that, while it's up 4 seconds, you don't die. You don't die. You are invincible. You
That's
cannot
where it
go
might
into
be the
down
Reaper.
state.
That's where the Reaper would be having problems. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
actually, I'm going to retract my statement.
So-
it's kind of ridiculous.
So the reason why this is good is, I think, obvious, number one. But on top of that, like, think about it in certain situations. Let's go with world versus world. You're in a Zerg. You start getting people down, right? You pop this. You start killing those people who are down. They're trying to counterattack, trying to cleave you down to make sure you can't stop or do something like that. They can't. They just can't.
It is a secure kill. It's a guaranteed stomp.
Yeah, in PvP, guaranteed stop, exactly. You get your stability with it. It's a leap to the downed target, gives
Which
you
pulls
stability and immunity to cleave.
And even any AoE damage, it already thwarts players from going into it already. So like,
Yeah.
I like the comments from chat. Like, someone's like, immediately, Exceed's like, yeah, that can't die trait 100% needs to be looked at.
Now, I'm
Cassie is
guessing-
just like, not dying is good.
I'm guessing that although you're immune to going down, you are still taking damage. So you're going to be at
Yeah.
0.001%. You'll be at 1 health, let's say. Or
Yeah.
you'll be at 0 but not down.
You need to get out. You
So
can't
you need
just
to
stay there.
and heal up probably, because
Yeah.
after you've stomped someone, you will die if someone's cleaving you.
yes.
But
Or if anybody follows up afterwards.
Oh,
I mean,
that
it's-
suggestion.
I feel like they could even take off the stability and it would
Yeah.
still be really good. So that way, somebody would at least have a chance to like,
Yeah.
get you away or interrupt or something before you could actually like finish off an ally. But it's tough because from an actual PvP standpoint, do you ever want to, especially in a game where you have downstate, feel as though like, well, this is it. There's absolutely no way I can fight back. that double sword Willbender coming for me. This is over. Like, no, you don't want to feel like that. You want to feel like until the last second, you can use whatever you can use to try to turn the tide, even if you're probably going to die anyway. But I was going to say, I also don't think that it's necessarily and maybe I'm just saying this because I don't play a ton of PvP or World versus World, but I also feel like I don't feel like it's necessarily a bad thing to have somebody who is a finisher, right? Like what they excel in is that like they have this thing where like they are the one that will end that, and then of course somebody else can get vengeance for you or something. But like
it's also very thematic for this particular character. You are hunting someone down and you are trying to kill them.
And because it's a grandmaster, you lose out on other powerful grandmaster traits that would give you more damage.
The alacrity is very strong on the other grandmaster trait.
There is
the minor is strong as well. You get
when Virtuoso was saying that, like with when you're talking about the kind of invulnerability, like, and in terms of there is another class that does have an ability which kind of almost stops you from killing them, like completely. And there's other classes as well. Revenant Heal, Herald Heal is pretty strong. Like you literally, like if they pop that and that comes up on their bar, like you're not attacking them for a good amount of time. So it's almost serves in a way.
Also, it's true.
Yeah, and there's like, I mean,
get CC'd away from the body. I think
that it doesn't give stability as well.
I think that the F3, we could have a very real scenario where for a good course of whenever this comes out, if there are no changes, that they only in PvP Willbenders will only be used for stomps because of all of the traits that interact with F3. There's even in the virtues line that F3 is not, it is a stun break and it grants stability. There's also a trait that you can cool down F3 if Aegis keeps popping and it lowers the cooldown. So you can get, just on the F3, not even talking about alacrity, you can get the F3 down so much. Yeah. Especially taking retreat.
What are you giving
and then
up,
renewed
though?
Focus, right? Like you could be immune to being down, and while that's still up, just a split second longer, someone was saying in chat, pop renewed focus. You're invulnerable for another 3 seconds. I wonder though, if you're invulnerable but you still could die now, if you're like at 0 hit points but invulnerable, do you die in renewed focus?
Just as a side note as well, as something else I want to say that maybe we could try out a lot of this stuff on stream next week. So what we're going to do is, everyone who's listening and watching to this, because I feel like this is a moment that would be very advantageous to kind of advertise that. I am going to be doing the LightBringers every Friday. In terms of not necessarily a podcast specifically, but the LightBringers play X whatever in Guild Wars 2. So what we're gonna do is next week is the perfect time to start doing it. Let's flip and play the elite specializations, like, in a game mode, whether or not it be fractals, PV, even if we jump into some unranked PvP for a game. I know we don't all play PvP, but we're gonna it doesn't have to be for long.
Get ready for me to climb on your back.
Yeah, that's fine.
Weigh you down.
But like, even if we just have some duels and like look at the abilities together and stuff like that, because you can get into spectate, we can have a look at stuff, and we can also jump into just some, maps, run around, do some world bosses, talk about the abilities, talk about experiences we're having. It won't be an audio thing, it'll probably be more visual. And obviously, people's schedules and stuff, and it'll be weekly, so it'll be people in and out all the time as well. But I feel like that would be fun. Like, chat, I hope that's something that you might be excited for, and maybe the people here as well, because they're always welcome to come and do this. But this is something I want to do in terms of talking about the game as we're playing it. And definitely there's one of the things I want to do, a big thing, is the new player experience, which I feel like is I watched a really, really good video recently about different MMOs, and the big, huge time basically people just turn off, and it's the first 2 hours. And so that new player experience is ridiculous. We're going to play that. But anyway, that was just a little mini advertisement. So make sure you're here on Fridays on 12 p.m. Pacific. But then we can try the stuff that you're talking about, Boots, and we're all talking about later on. Sorry if it was into it. What we were talking about? I massively advertised something there because I'm excited about it. But it felt like a good time to do it.
Willbender.
Testing things out.
Are we done with Willbender though? is the
Do we want
question.
to talk about
Are we?
I mean, we didn't really talk about the sword.
We didn't really talk
Or,
about the
like,
abilities, like the fact that
Yeah,
it
we
looks
didn't
like.
talk about the ability.
We didn't talk about
yeah,
anything. We didn't talk about
All right,
anything.
all right, all right.
I mean,
about its mobility. We're like, this thing is fast.
Can I just
I
say
mean-
as well, like this class feels like it's a fighting game class. It just
Yes.
feels like it. It just feels like, you know, I saw that and talked about it in the video. I was like, and I tweeted it out. I was like, Ken Ryu spinning kick. It would be Chung Li if they were upside down. You know, it was just like this thing is so cool. Like in terms of just like some of the more martial arts. I'm trying to generalize that, but you know, I'm kind of trying to get to anyway. But like the blocking, even with the heel, some of the dashing and stuff is a little bit more, you know, I think fantasy-esque, obviously, of some of the stuff you might see in like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, more movie stuff, obviously. And then you've kind of got some of the other abilities, which are just, but like, I can't remember if I saw the sword in that spinning ability as well. I think it did in the trailer, but I didn't so much in the actual gameplay. But I don't know, how do you all feel about the style of it, like the theme of it, like the feel of it? Like, is this different enough for an elite specialization? Is it talking about some of the stuff that we missed from before, like some of the abilities? Yeah, talk about the offhand sword.
I wanted to say really fast before we get off of this, because Nick Hernandez, who some of you may or may not know, who works on Guild Wars 2, posted a tweet that was about like the summary of what Willbender is.
Oh yeah.
And I really loved it. Let me find it again really fast. There. Have you ever wanted to pretend like your legs were swords and your swords were your fists, all while cosplaying a tornado? Which I feel like is just a really good summary. And yeah,
good.
Jeb, I like the way that they kind of integrated this stuff. I think it's really neat. Although some little part of me kind of wishes, I don't know. It's interesting because like after seeing how different I felt like Harbinger was when we got into Willbender, and I was like, oh, I mean, you got like the sword stuff, and I guess there's a couple new ones, and on the like ability end, you know, it's like that's okay. It's not like they've totally radically changed that, but the like sort of stances, pseudo stances, I think are so neat with the, you know, F abilities, and I really like the right hand side with, like you were saying, this martial arts inspiration, like this idea that there are these different kicks and all kinds of stuff that you're doing that in a sense to me really does round out overall like the abilities and combat form of the class, that's not just specific to what weapons they have and like which ones they have in both hands. Like I liked that. I thought it kind of like rounded out the class in a different way.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I actually wasn't super excited based off of the trailer that was shown yesterday.
What
Actually,
what was it that you didn't get excited about before you tell me about what the excitement was about?
I think overall the trailer itself didn't really connect with me as much as the Harbinger did, mostly because it really wasn't talking about the virtues. It didn't really hint at necessarily anything else other than they're guardians of the throne. And so on that end, I was like, okay, but the visuals were interesting, but I was really holding out for the traits and the tooltips and the actual information around this. And getting to know more about the virtues, how they have the passive after you use them, getting to know more about the sword and it's like, it's slow and a mob and like a couple different aspects of it, the more physical style of the utility skills, and just, I mean, of course, we've talked about this ad nauseum, the amount of mobility and able to get onto targets. Everything after seeing this has like rounded that out for me, and I'm now the most excited for what happens to be my main. So of the three that have been shown so far.
That's good.
So
that's nice.
Yeah, I mean everything Ruka said about it.
I kind of agree with you too. Yeah, it out of the three of them, it's the most exciting. And yeah, after the trailers, it was just like, okay, it's a guardian with swords. But now, seeing how powerful a lot of this is, yeah.
And it's not even, for me, it's not even just the power, because I think there are certain powerful traits, but they were really smart to put into the traits a lot of trade-offs in the very like minor traits, the very first
traits, yeah.
We have to give something up.
No matter
think
what, because every minor trait has, yeah, exactly.
And I love that. I love that this specialization is kind of forcing you, no matter what play style, if you're going to go with the play style, you're going to be specialized in that, and you will be a little bit weaker in another area. And I think that is exactly what this needed to at least give it. There will be more balancing, but right now, I think that is a good start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And I wish more of these specs did that and like really like specialized you into a certain thing.
I think they're thinking about it more now, hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, something that I am really excited for this, but I'm a little bit more hyped for Necro just because I like Elixirs and it's
Necro's closed session.
It's very cool. But I haven't seen the other ones. I'm still excited for it because it's got a lot of that like kind of fighting, like I said, the fighting game kind of influence there, which I really, really enjoy. So that's very cool. Virtuoso, I think again is the one where I'm like, I feel like they've shown that maybe, I don't know if they showed Virtuoso first for like to build up to be like, oh well, these other two are so good that, you know, they're gonna kind of outshine it. I feel bad. No, I'm joking. They obviously didn't do that, but like I still think like Virtuoso is quite cool in design and stuff. I feel like in terms of like the dagger just being a long range weapon, I think that's quite a cool addition. Still going with that kind of theme of like with Mesmer, like it's literally everything is completely different to what you might think it is actually going to be in terms of greatsword when we first got it. But yeah, I don't know, like Guardian is, I'm enjoying. I really just want to feel like how squishy you are in some of these situations and how your dashes and your movement speed is movement abilities, and the shadow steps and everything's going to combine to make you just really, really powerful. And I feel like there's a couple of abilities in there, like that trait is a little bit like they're just gonna have to watch out for that. I'm interested. It's just so different, I think, as well. Like some of the physical abilities and stuff. Like I enjoy looking at Warrior and those kicks and the headbutts and the stuff like that. Like I enjoy that, and that real, like we've talked about. I know in Elder Scrolls Online community they talk a lot about having no weapons and just like fisticuffs kind of thing, and whereas with Guardian here there's definitely that idea of there's getting rid of like weapons not being the, you know, some of your powerful abilities, like those skills, and I enjoy that as well. I don't know,
it definitely seems like their design philosophy for at least these first three, hopefully for the rest of them as well, has developed quite a bit from the original incarnations of Elite Specs, because a lot of Elite Specs before this, you could just say, oh, okay, so this is just a Necro with a different shroud, or oh, okay, this is just it's just a Guardian with a bow and traps, and but these are so like just the mechanics. It changes the mechanics of the class completely.
They've had to be more they've had to be more, they've got less room to move, and I think actually Camphor helps with that helped with their more of their focus as well, because especially I think with the past specializations, it at least gives them a little bit of an area to kind of be like, well, do we want to focus on this, then okay, cool, we can go in that direction of actually fully just going ham with the expansion and the theme, that Eastern theme, and then slapping all this stuff in from this culture, you know, and hopefully being respectful at the same time, which I think they're doing, and then thinking about whether or not they want to just go completely the opposite of that. So I think at the moment we've got links for Guardian and definitely for Necro. And I think you even can for Virtuoso as well, because daggers, and I was talking about this in my on my Virtuoso video about throwing daggers and stuff like that being a ranged thing, and how there's some crossover culturally there in terms of the weapon usage. Maybe if you're talking about like stereotypical stuff, I suppose. I don't know, but like I'm just generally excited. I'm excited. In all honesty, I could have just been like not massively impressed about any of these specs, but more impressed about the campaign of building up towards the expansion. That is where I'm impressed the most, more so actually, which might sound a bit ridiculous coming from me specifically, especially as I do PvP more. But like the fact that they're showing us this stuff in detail, in spaced out segments, and we are getting to test this every, you know, for 3 or 4 days, like every month up into the expansion. And there was a hint in there that we're going to get to test maps
True.
early on. I don't know if any. Yeah, it seems like it did. Pick
Maybe
up on
when
that.
the turtle comes out.
And the turtle's coming out in the final one. Yes.
I hope final one we get to test a small area of like the first map.
I mean,
actually get to use the turtle.
Just destroy it with siege turtles.
They have to give us the. Don't they have to give us the turtle, siege turtle, with one of those maps? I mean, you know, you'd think that would be
that's
something
where
that
it would
would
be used like the best.
Yeah, exactly. So it must be, right?
Huh.
Or in World v World, maybe if they're a big feature there. Ooh. But like, yeah, just in general, I think awesome work. I'm pretty damn happy, and the show wasn't too long either. It was good.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, is there anything anyone else wants to say about Guardian specifically, or in general about this stuff?
No, I feel pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really exciting to see them kind of. I mean, there's just so much good stuff coming out this expansion, and we don't even know if this is the end all be all, right? We had a first look live stream. There may very well be other features and things, and of course, like with just these 3 elite specs being released, I know I've seen some people, particularly with Guardian and Willbender looking so strong, they're like, oh well, you know, Guardian always gets the best stuff. Guardian's always the favorite. But we really have no idea. I mean, the fact that these are the first 3 could also mean that they're saving the best for last. And like, it's one of those things where we really don't have a ton to go off of just yet. But the fact that we are, you know, getting this out in stages and we're going to be able to play and we're all going to be able to kind of get more and more hyped and, you know, try stuff out, like absolutely hop in for those betas, give feedback where they say to. And it's going to be really neat to see how they respond to that and this new expansion, like what it brings to the table.
There is also a balance patch out, which has got some big changes. I don't know.
The biggest change, of course, is the fact that Guardian's retreat shout is now advanced, because you know those Willbenders ain't retreating. They're all advancing.
No, they are telling everyone to go in, and you're getting Aegis there.
It'd be funny if they actually did that.
They did. I'm serious. That's literally what happened.
Wait, what?
This is not a joke. This is truth.
You're not
they changed the name of retreat to advance because Willbenders do not retreat.
I love it.
Don't know. Wait, are you actually? You're joking.
I'm not joking.
What?
No, this is real.
It's not April. Okay.
There's even apparently like voice lines will be different, where like you will yell something about.
So this shout skill has been renamed Advance. The voice acting has been updated appropriately to say either Advance or Charge at random for a little variety. Jabro is shook.
We are not messing with you.
I'm not reading it. I'm like.
You know, Willbenders would not be allowed to take that skill if it was still retreat. So this works.
That is actually awesome that they've just been like, yeah, let's do this. Okay, fine.
It's very possible that they were thinking about something like that for a while now, and that like thematically the retreat wasn't really retreat. You know, so.
Wow.
They're just like, okay, let's do it now. It might have nothing to do with Willbender. It might just be, let's do it now anyway.
That's actually very cool. A shroud. I don't think there's anything else like that, right? But like, there's a lot of changes to Necro. PvP, it looks like it's been slammed into the ground, but I need to go play it before that is actually a thing.
I like the change they did to Holosmith.
Reduce some of the protection durations and stuff.
In PvE that you can mount in hollow form now, it just turns off, and you don't lose your hollow energy, your heat if you mount. You come back with the same amount. So like if you have that trait, for example, that does this keeps the amount of heat that you usually have, you could keep it while you mount too now, which is great. It's the whole point of it.
There's some cool scrapper additions. They've increased their damage actually a little bit here and there. There's some, I'm not going to go into a balance patch podcast. It's a bad idea because we're just going to be here for a long time.
And you can catch it on this live stream. The actual AoE rings are being changed and updated, which I'm really excited for. Love new visuals.
Kind of want to go and try that out right now, actually. Could do that after this podcast.
Confusion gotta change? What?
Live on Tuesday.
Oh, it's not
I
going
like the
live until
combo field.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure. I think
man.
this is just an early release.
Damn it.
Yeah,
I
it's a
wanna go try
preview
it.
for the 17th.
Yes, yes, yes.
I want it now. Yeah, what am I talking about? They never patch on Fridays. I'm just like, I want all the things. I'm just like,
We want more. Give us more.
oh, all right, fine.
I am pumped
I
for
am
next
as well.
week.
I think we're gonna end it there. Actually, I think this is a good time to end. There's a lot that I want to talk about, but we've been doing this for 3 hours. I'm tired. It's also one of the hottest days of the year so far. Today I'm warm, and I also need to pee. So there's also that.
Thanks for the update, Jeb.
It's okay.
You
I
had to
feel like we're
touch your
talking
knees
about.
or something.
I mean,
I am also hot, but I do not have to pee, so I want everyone to be aware of that and have an update.
I peed 30 minutes ago.
Oh, proud of you.
did you?
Right where you're sitting, because I
Thank
didn't
you.
see you get up.
No, I didn't see you getting up either. No. That was more information than my information, technically.
Is Joko? Is Joko?
Okay, tell me what do you do? Where do you do it? Think, or unless anyone wants to say anything else before we do head off.
Everyone
Nope.
play Guardian.
Wow.
Yeah.
All other classes suck. Only Guardian play it. Ha ha ha.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to, you can. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be playing. Oh wait, sorry, something went up with the audio.
I feel like Virtuoso is getting the short end of the stick, so I'm gonna play a lot of Virtuoso actually.
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
show it some love.
I definitely
Well,
want to
pretty
try out the illusion generation with some healing traits.
I mean, we're going to be able to do all the things. We're gonna show some stuff off next week as well. I'm not sure if I will invite everyone here. They are more than welcome. We could probably just do some dungeons, to be fair. Fractals, low level stuff.
We can do strike missions with 5 people or something. Or dungeons,
We can get some
whatever.
chatting involved as well. We can walk around, do some stuff. But yeah, the idea is that's what we're going to be doing. So if you are thinking about joining in and hanging out with the Lightbringers once again, we'll be here about 12 p.m. Pacific next week as well. In similar setup, if you're watching them live on video, with different windows or our faces, so you'll be able to see our reactions when we're using the abilities of loads of new elite specializations. Then people don't have to play those if they don't want it. And yeah, so we have Crew Better Chests and Boots. Boots, what do you do? Where do you do it?
Hi,
That's my
Boots. You can find my stuff over on World of Vendors on YouTube and make some videos and come here and talk to people about Guild Wars 2 in general. Oh,
Awesome.
also host of Ascalon, which I think is coming back in September.
Cool.
I can't wait for the Boots bad builds. I'm
Yes.
I'm
You
looking
should
forward
come
to
out
it
with
too.
some of
Yeah.
those next week for sure.
Yeah. I've got a video I'm making right now, actually, before, not for the new elite specs, but kind of a bad build. Not so much a true Boots bad build, just like a little talk with WP about some things I'm thinking about.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, check, and also on the Wood and the Potatoes channel, where Boots is as well. Okay. Awesome to have you here again, my friend. Good to see you. More puppy next time. Kroof, looking amazing today as per usual.
Willbender.
Sorry, Willbender.
Willbender.
Yes. How is
Damn it,
Willbender
Jeff.
today? What do you do? Where do you do it? And do you like girders?
Do I like girders? I have gird. Just kidding.
I am Bender. Please
Hi,
insert girder.
everyone.
No? Okay, fine.
Girder?
Boots got
What's
it earlier.
Bro, my brain is. It's not clicking. It
I will-
doesn't often.
I can't
but
play the
try.
clip on this because copyright probably.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Kroof. I do a lot of videos
Kroof.
over on YouTube's, and I'll probably be making multiple videos after this as well. But I gotta eat something because I'm very hungry.
I've got to do this.
I also have to go to the bathroom, you guys. It's been a long time. But I also stream here on Twitch Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And whenever I get asked to be on podcasts, I always say yes. So thank you so much, chat. It's been wonderful. And of course, thank you to Jebro, to Wilk, and Boots. You guys are always wonderful to chat with.
Awesome, Kroof, you're legend. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
That was so hard.
You just went for that dab.
Did you dislocate your shoulder on that?
You
I can
okay?
actually
That's some
pop my shoulder
dislocation.
out. If we ever meet in person, you can put your arm on my shoulder and I can pop it out for you.
Wow, I can't wait. When I meet you one day, Crew, the first thing I'm going to say to you, I'm not going to even say hello. I'm just going to be like, pop that shoulder. I'm just going to appear behind you. Like, pop that shoulder.
Anyway.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Please don't do that when I see you. And if I'm with Bird of Chess, we will play paper, scissors, stone, all that kind of stuff. Right? Anyway. Bird of Chess, aka Rook, aka doesn't play chess, but you get it. Tell us what do you do, and other things as well.
Yes. Hi, I'm Rook, aka Bird of Chess. I can't pop my shoulder. I don't have to pee, but I am hungry. So that's my current update status. Otherwise, you can find me on twitch.tv, Bird of Chess. You can find me on YouTube. And if anybody tuned in or saw the pre-show that I did, that was the 40-minute summary of all of the story of Guild Wars 2. It is now up on YouTube, alongside some beautiful reactions from these folks as well, if you haven't seen that video yet. They were all very mean and said very mean things about me, and I kept kidding. But you can check it out on YouTube. Also, Bird of Chess. Twitter, all the places, at Bird of Chess. I'm a variety MMO broadcaster with a focus on Final Fantasy XIV and Guild Wars 2, and I always love hanging out, chatting, and meeting new people.
Here we go. Okay, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Also, I am Jebro. Unity on everything. Twitch.tv/JebroUnity. On Instagram, everything else as well. TikTok, all the things. I'm starting to put more shorts and clips or whatever on TikTok and all the stuff. Not just pairs of shorts, Crew. No. I'm throwing my pairs of shorts out. I'm going to put more shorts out there, just random shorts.
I want only shorts-related content. I want to see your entire shorts collection.
I actually have started to review shorts now. That's just it. It's that you know, it's summer. I guess for a little bit longer. Okay, so other than that, thank you very much. Come and join us next week for the, as I said, we're going to do a LightBringers of just playing the Elite Specs, talking about things, and playing some of the content Guild Wars 2. You know, Elite Spec week next week. Enjoy it if I don't see you then. Thank you very much for checking out the channel and all the things. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Don't forget to follow if you're on Twitch. Don't forget to follow on Anchor and subscribe on all the things. iTunes, Spotify, your favorite podcast service, whatever that is. And we'll see you next time on the LightBringers podcast, episode 21. Hashtag not sure if it's that episode. All right. Bye.
Nailed it.
One more
Bye.
time.